Hello, fiends, friends, and familiars, and we are here with a Macabre daily video review, which is something we don't do that often. I think this is the third time we've done one, but the voice you're hearing is Matt Orozco, and I'm joined by one of Macabre Day's contributors, Brian Finnerty. Brian, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, Matt. Hey, everybody out there.
Well,
And hi, Cassie.
yes, those watching the video will see that there's a cat on my lap. This is Cassie, the Lord of Darkness in this house. But we're here to talk about the new 28 years later film, The Bone Temple, which we both had the opportunity to see a screening of last night. Um, and while we're not trying to rub it in, the movie doesn't come out until Friday, January 16th. So we got to see it a little early, but we're here to give you our spoiler-free review so that you can go into this film on Friday fully confident whether or not you think it's going to be your bag. So, first and foremost, Brian, if you had to summarize your expectations going into this film, what would you say they were?
Ooh. I mean, question number one that I had was I just needed to know how much zombie dong there was going to be in the second chapter. And is
Do
that
we
considered a
spoil it?
spoiler
I
to
don't
share
know.
that?
I feel like, I mean, I guess it may be to not spoil it entirely to say that the rumor that the alpha is clothed is not true.
You will not be disappointed.
Yes.
Um, No, I was really intrigued going into it. Full disclosure, I actually didn't get a chance to see 28 years later last year. So I literally just watched that like 3 days ago to prepare to go to the screening of Bone Temple. So it was super fresh. Um, and I think the biggest thing standing out to me was, and I think this was a strength of the first one, was I really had no clue where they were going in the second chapter. Um, and so I was coming into it with a really open mind. And I'll say, even going into the third chapter now, I still kind of have no idea where
Yeah.
it's going. And I think that's a good thing. I think a lot of how I feel about this trilogy is going to hinge on how the third one goes.
I can appreciate that. I mean, um, to answer my own question, I I also kind of felt for for the very rare time that I didn't really know what I was going to get.
Hmm.
And I think that the marketing that they've used for both films has been very effective by not over-promising and not under-delivering, and being just good enough to entice you, but not good enough to spoil it for you, or maybe lead you to assume things are happening a certain way or they aren't. But I love this one. I liked it a lot more than the first one, in fact.
Did you?
And curious to know, since you're so fresh off your viewing of the first one,
Yeah.
it's kind of a two-pronged question for you. Like, one, do you feel like the continuity was natural? And second, where do you stand in terms of how you like this one versus the one that came before it?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think they do a great job with the continuity. Like, I think, and I'm assuming they're going to do the same with the third. I feel like we're going to be able to step back from this and almost look at it kind of the way that we would view like a mini series on like Netflix or HBO Max or something. Um, it feels very episodic in a way that I like. Um, I mean, I was kind of comparing a little bit almost to like Lord of the Rings in
Yeah.
that it really just makes no qualms that this is the first one, this was the first chapter, this one is the middle chapter. They just blend seamlessly from one to another. Um, you could almost just imagine watching like a supercut of all three and just watching it as one film. So I think continuity is perfect. Um, in terms of my opinion, I think I'm actually a little flip-flopped from you. I I think I liked the first one better. That is not to say I didn't like this one. I really, really enjoyed Bone Temple. I just don't think I loved it. Um, which is okay. Like I don't mean
Yeah.
that
No,
as
actually, that's
an
not okay,
insult.
Brian. Get the fuck out of here. No, I'm just kidding. So, in your mind, kind of what was it that the Bone Temple was missing that 28 years later had? Or rather, was it something else entirely, not so much a matter of omission, but rather just topically what we're focused on is different and you preferred it?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of both. I mean, I think I do. The first thing that comes to mind is I think the first one, as much as I said, it's very clearly a first chapter. I think it did a much better job of telling just one self-contained story. And the thing that I went away from chapter one thinking was that it was just surprisingly so much more intimate than I expected for like such a big blockbuster zombie film. And the second one, I think I honestly, I loved so many components of it. I loved most of the characters. I loved the expansion of the universe, getting to like see how new groups of people are surviving and thriving or not so much in this apocalypse. Um, it felt slightly, ever so slightly disjointed to me. Like it just didn't all coalesce into one cohesive story
Hmm.
for me. And
Okay.
so I think that's the only thing that kept it from kind of being great for me for my experience.
I I get that. I think for me, the way I'm reading this is like, so one, I actually, and this is my fault. I didn't realize that Alex Garland had wrote this script, this one as well. So he wrote the
Mm,
first one and
yeah,
the second one, which leads me to believe he's probably writing the third one or has already written it. So I often don't give a lot of credibility to people that say they have forethought out a trilogy, especially if it's something that is like either brand new or in this case revived something that was quite old.
yeah.
Um, but these do very much feel like they were written in one long stretch rather so far, rather
Mhm,
than the Halloween trilogy that Blumhouse released, where the first one did really well. And then they're like, shit, we're gonna make a trilogy. And then they make these two movies that, you know, feel disjointed because they are unnaturally being forced into a three-part movie series versus this
mhm.
feels like The Empire Strikes Back. And I'm not attributing the same level of quality, like, but more so, and like, not to say that Empire Strikes Back is a better movie or not. And we're just saying, like, I don't want people to get mad at me and saying that I'm comparing this to Empire Strikes Back. More so that,
Don't come
like,
for Matt.
yeah, exactly. Don't come for me. And if you can find me, have at it. But in the way that Empire Strikes Back is very much a part, like the middle of the sandwich, it
Hmm.
still is something that you can turn on and watch without having to have revisited the first one. You can take it in as kind of just its own thing, but it does work extremely well. And I think what I like more about the Bone Temple versus the previous film is that the previous film to me, like it's establishing films, and I think I just tend to not get as much out of those because a lot of it is table setting. And
Hmm.
whereas in this one, we're able to live in this world a lot more. And I really like the emphasis on making us follow almost like the two sides of the spectrum of humanity, which is like one is like trying to see the good, and the other is steeped in the worst possible tendencies. And I think that that juxtaposition is far more interesting because it allows us to get to know these characters in a way that they're more than just a protagonist and an antagonist. Like
Yeah.
there's a part near the end of the film where um, Jack O'Connell's Jimmy Crystal is talking to Ralph Fiennes' Dr. Kelson about why they're there.
Sir Jimmy Crystal
Sir
to you,
Jimmy Crystal, excuse
right?
me. Yeah. Jimmy. By the way, if you don't know the lore of Jimmy Seville, there's a lot you may not pick up on, and I even had to educate myself about the how's that. That's a reference. It's like a cricket reference that was from the Jimmy Savile show. So like there's perhaps maybe the most interesting thing for folks that really get into these movies is that if you're not British, then there's a lot of lore you can pick up from what's already occurred in the world. Um, but there's a part where they're talking with each other, and you completely forget that who Jack O'Connell's character is
Mm,
because he lets his guard down, and you forget. And Dr. Kelson, like he's perceived as this awful person, or maybe he's, that's the assumption in the first film. But in this
yeah.
one, obviously we learn he's not that way. But in this one, you start to understand his pathos, like his ethos a little bit more. Um,
Yeah.
so I like getting to, and also I just find that there are parts in this that I think because of our current moment feel like extremely important reminders of like sometimes like we are the only thing keeping ourselves from becoming the worst possible version of our species.
Yes. The big,
And
I hadn't thought about this till you were just saying that, but big themes around the cult of personality, which I think are going
yes.
to be are going to hit hard
And
to
how
people
that
watching it
like and
today.
how people start to splinter from that. Like I think
Hmm.
that's the most interesting part of some of this is that it shows that how power dynamics are really fragile. And all it takes is a level of disbelief that, or even doubt, just doubt, I think, that can, totally fuck up your cult vibes if you let that in. But anyway, I could drone on all day about this, but we are avoiding spoilers in this part in this review.
Yes.
Um, so,
Can I say one thing about
oh
that?
yeah, of course.
Is that was actually one of the things I really liked about this movie is like you said, there are these, without going into spoilers, there's like different groups and they're kind of diametrically opposed, like you said. But even given that, like one thing, I was surprised that we spent as much time as we did with the one group that kind of represents the darker side of things. I mean, I wasn't timing it, but I would almost guess off my head that we spent more time with them than with any characters. And what I thought was cool was that it really the movie avoided just like painting any character as all good or bad. Even these people who there's a lot of reason to not like them. There was like a really surprising amount of humanity in
Yes.
them. And like you were talking about the different chapters and kind of comparing it to Star Wars. I felt like if for me if the theme of the first one was kind of like grief and loss, I felt like the second one, in spite of how bloody and gruesome and dark it got, the theme was more about hope,
Yeah.
which again was really interesting, just considering the types of characters that we spent so much time with.
I think that's what makes it so fascinating to me, though, is that you're like, and I love movies where you are forced to empathize with the absolute worst people. And it's
Hmm.
because it makes you, it, if it done correctly, it is not exploitation. Rather, it's very much feels like a documentary. Like it feels like you're following these people like an MTV Real World Crew or something. And it's like that's what parts of this movie feel like. Now, it's very cinematic. The cinematography is outstanding, and whoever was doing the second unit pickup shots for like things of like the Bone Temple itself deserves their
Oh,
own fucking Academy Award because I that looked like the kind of thing I would just leave on and like do drugs to, which is also a very big theme of this
yeah.
film. But yeah, Sean Bobbitt was the DOP for this, and um, but I think that yeah, you're forced to stick around with these. But the thing is, like, you don't get to know all of them.
Hmm.
But by getting to know a few of them, you understand all of them in how they arrived where they are. And they all are coming to it from the same place, which is they've been taken advantage of, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it also, I mean, I think that's a really rich, interesting thing that you can't get out of, that you don't get as much out of in the first one, only because you're spending less time with more characters.
Hmm.
To establish them. Whereas here, you really are like your central group of people is like maybe less than 10 people, like
Yeah.
aside for like
It
extras
was,
and things like that.
I mean, similar to the first movie, it was much more intimate than I think
Yeah.
people might expect. Um, Also, just in terms of surprising things, so much funnier
Yeah.
than I expected it to be. I think this was, I don't know about your screening or for you, but like my theater was laughing out loud multiple times. Like,
I was laughing. There was a really small, like, there was not a lot of people at my screening. So
okay.
it just, I think people are less inclined to, you know, crowd, crowd, crowd behavior often means that if one person laughs, we're all going, gives us all the ability to do so. But there
Yeah,
were
this movie
really
just
like,
got goofy at times. Like if you take from the very first movie, 28 Days Later, like the grocery store scene where they're all just like for one moment just having fun and relating to each other, and then you like amp that up, throwing in like elements of like a buddy comedy and like a bunch of slapstick comedy. Um, yeah, this movie was like very comedic.
And I think it's like a I think that's what makes the violence in it feel so much more palpable. To
Mhm.
how many tonal shifts that it does well. It moves from a place of very deep like drama and human like really difficult human emotions around like dealing with loneliness and like finding connection in a place that's void of it. From that into like something that looks so silly but is so endearingly charming. Like
Yeah.
there's a scene with Ralph Fiennes and the Alpha that I think is just
Samson. Yeah.
yeah, Samson. That's right. He has a name. And
That that's going to be divisive, I think. People are either going to love what they do with Samson or hate it. I think I mostly liked it.
To those that would disagree with it, I'd ask them their opinion on Day of the Dead, and that will tell me if they're full of shit and hypocrites or they just don't like that idea, that concept. But I
Mhm.
do think that it is the natural evolution of that character to try that thing.
Mhm.
And as someone, you're a therapist, and I am a receiver of medications to keep me mentally well. And there's a lot of themes about the importance of mental health in here.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably, in my mind, actually, I think more people are going to be upset at some of the logistical things that are explained
Yeah.
than they are about like how they happen, because I think though if you buy into the logistical things, the rest of it makes sense. Whereas if
Yeah.
you don't buy into that, then you're like, okay, well then this is all corrupt. Like
Mhm. I mean, it was definitely like, and I think I don't like to be that person, but like nitpicking little things like Dr. Kelson, he just happens to have these things in his bunker after 28 years living by himself. Uh, Honestly, my lingering doubts of the idea that this one guy created that bone temple over 28 years and is somehow still alive in the middle of a field. Um, uh, I couldn't help but roll my eyes a little bit at those moments, but it does not, you got to suspend your disbelief. It's a freaking zombie movie.
those are like I think those are valid critiques, but at no point did I ever feel like I was taken out by them.
Mhm.
And I think that's like the difference between and that what I'd also say is if you didn't like the first one, you're not gonna like this one.
No, no.
And I don't think that there's gonna be anybody that would say I didn't like the first one at all and I really like this one because I don't know how that squares, considering how much you have to be endeared to what the first one lays down as a foundation for this to make sense and matter.
Mhm.
Um, but any final overall thoughts about the film?
Yeah, I mean, long story short, I would recommend people see it for sure. I think you just put it perfectly. If you liked the first one, you will really like this one. If you didn't like the first one, probably don't bother. It's doing a lot of different things to keep things really interesting, but it is similar in terms of themes, tone, the way that it's shot, the way they tell the story. Um, but I think, yeah, so far they're two for two in terms of just really solid stories. I'm excited for number three.
Well put. I'd echo a lot of what you said, but just slightly more positive, and that I think everyone should go see this. If you didn't like, as we said, if you didn't like the first one, why would you do that to yourself? Life is too short. But I do think that if you were even on the fence about the first one, I think you should give this one a shot because it is very different, but it still is very much the same. Like you can tell that it's made with a sense of continuity and forethought that I think is I appreciate. And you can also tell that this like there's no gimmicks in this world.
Mm,
And I really appreciate that this does feel like, obviously there's some things you have to buy, but like there's not asking you too much to it's not suspend too much more than you're already being asked to. Um, and I'm really appreciate. I think maybe it's just the time we're in that makes this feel more pressing and pertinent. So
mhm.
perhaps I think that's coloring my view on it. But I'm excited to watch it again. I will say that. So
Absolutely.
thank you to our friends at Sony for inviting us to our preview screenings. And again, a reminder to everybody that's watching this. Hopefully, you've made it to the end. We love it that you do. that you can go see 28 years later, The Bone Temple on Friday, January 16th from and in Nationwide, directed by Nia DaCosta, written by Alex Garland. Amazing cast, amazing time. And if you can see it in an Atmos theater, do it because holy smokes, the sound design is great.